You won't tell anybody, will you? I know I will. If it's true.
Wes, do you think you're going to get a good grade?
I always get an A.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 3 of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Wow.
I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are huge Star Trek nerds. Dory's a Star Trek novice, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek The Next Generation. Today's episode is obviously episode 1 of Season 3, called Evolution. Original air date, September 23rd, 1989.
Not related to the film Evolution, thank God.
Yes, that was relevant to say.
Yes, I agree.
As always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so we start with Wes is like asleep in like a little lab, and he's woken up, I want to say by Riker or Picard. I truly don't remember. I watched this yesterday, and that's how little
Riker.
I remember of that. Oh, it was Riker. Okay. His school father. So then we go to the bridge, and we meet Dr. Paul Stubbs. It's funny. I recognized him immediately. He was Dr. Kelso from Scrubs.
Oh, I was going to say Dr. Resting Bitch Face, but okay.
Yeah, he does look very grumpy all the time. So Paul is there. Yeah, and my usual thing, I'm just going to call him by his first name, mostly because I hate this man. I mean, those actually don't correlate. I'm not calling him by his first name because I hate him.
Wow.
I'm calling him by his first name, and I hate him. Two different things. Just to clarify. Okay, so he's there to to study the decay of neutronium expelled at relativistic speeds from a massive stellar explosion, which will occur in 18 hours. I don't understand anything I just said. I wrote it down.
Dory, let's be perfectly fair. I don't think anybody understands that.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't care. Anyways, so he looks like he's gonna blast off some kind of egg from a transport ship into the thing. I don't know, but I did get a laugh out of it when Picard's like, "Is the egg ready to go?" or whatever, and then then Paul's like, "Yeah, I've been looking at setting it for 20 years." And he goes, "You may lay it when ready." And just Picard makes a face. It's like he told Picard to lay an egg.
That's funny.
Made me laugh.
Humorous.
So then the door opens, they're about to launch the thing, and then we get a real ship shake. Paul goes flying across the room, everybody wiggles aggressively in their chairs. What a ride. This was a good one. I will stand by. This was a good shake. Everybody did a good whoa. And it turns out, so they're now kind of drifting into the path of the stellar matter. So Paul gets sent to medical bay, and he is treated by none other than Reba McEntire. No, I'm joking. It's Dr. C with a haircut.
Oh. I was going to say, what?
She looks just like Reba.
I believe this would have come before Reba.
Well, I think she looks like Reba. I'm not saying they did her hair based on Reba. I'm saying
I know.
She looks like.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Oh, fun fact about that.
I mean, before the show, but not before her career.
Yes. One of the main characters, one of the side characters on Voyager, which hopefully you will never have to see, eventually went on to be a prominent character in Reba's TV show.
Wait, who? I actually watched that show many years ago.
What is her name? She was real young when she did Voyager. She would have been a teenager when she did Reba.
Is she
the
one of the
little
kids?
girl, I think.
The red-haired.
I think the character's name was Kira. I don't know what the actress's name was. But
it could be, yeah.
The redhead girl, her name was Kira.
Yeah, she was super slender, probably, I don't know, 16, 17 when she did it, maybe a little bit older.
Oh. You know what? Reba is bringing everybody together.
There we
in
go.
some way or another. Okay, so then Wes comes in to see Paul. They go off to do shit. And Dr. C notices a drink overflowing in the replicator, in which she calls it a food slot.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out and kind of lolled at it.
It's just really nice to see Dr. C again.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes to see Dr. Picard, and when he opens the door, she's just like standing there with like a popped collar pose, which I like it. It's just like what a pose. Anyways, so she is concerned about Wes because he's like working too hard, and she's like, he's 17. Shouldn't he have friends? Like, oh, has he ever been in? Oh, she's like, oh, she says to Picard, tell me about him. And Picard's like talking about like his academic shit and whatever. And then she's like, no, like, tell me about him. And Picard just like stares. It's like, that's a legit, like, oh, Beverly, he knows nothing about your son. But I don't know if it was like he chose not to tell Dr. C about Wesley's romance with Chewbacca. I mean, I don't know why he didn't say it, but
Yeah. She asks, like, has he ever been in love? And he's like,
he could have just explained the princess situation.
Yeah.
But I don't
Well-
know. He doesn't tell her for whatever reason, and which honestly, I feel like Dr. P would maybe like be sympathetic to it. I don't think she'd be like, "What the fuck?" I think she'd be like, "Oh, okay."
But the
'Cause,
thing,
like Wesley,
the thing about this scene, Sarah, is just like, she's basically coming in and it's like, I'm worried about my son. He's a fucking nerd.
I think I wrote in my notes. I think she's like complaining that Wesley's like too well adjusted.
Yeah.
So
He's too well behaved.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, were you not getting in trouble at 17?" And I was like, Why do people do this? Like, is it mandatory to like I you know, when I was a teenager, I don't think I did. Like when I was in high school, I don't think I did anything particularly, you know, bad behavior. I saved that for my 20s to do stupid shit. Yeah, so, oh yeah, okay, so there's like a bunch of malfunctions happening on the ship, and they're like, oh, a Borg vessel. And I was like, oh shit, the Borgs, man, this like season 3 premiere, they are ramping it up. And
Getting
then a
fucked.
second later, they're like, just kidding, no Borg vessel. I was like, oh, well, there goes that like excitement. My favorite bit of all that was like everything's going crazy, and over Riker's shoulder is just like the doors opening and closing. I don't know why. I just thought that was funny.
Oh yeah, that was going nuts, and I really
Yeah.
wanted to make an animated GIF of it, but didn't have GIF cam on my system. It was just like, it's fine.
It just, yeah, I don't know, that made me laugh. So because like the ship is having all these malfunctions, they're drifting closer to the thing. Picard is concerned about the safety of the ship and then like the crew and everything, but Paul says, fuck that safety. If we're going to, like, we might as well make it into the, as he called, the record books. Like, it's like the get rich or die trying, but, you know, do research or die trying. I don't know. He's very cool with like dying to like, but so I don't get like why, if you're gonna die, what are you gonna report on? How are you gonna report shit? Doesn't it make sense to just like leave? I don't. Paul's an idiot. I fucking hate this guy.
He is an idiot.
Well, I think it's like, okay, if we're going to entertain this for a second, the egg, as they call it, the sort of experimental module thing, it's designed to like withstand all the bullshit that's happening out in the space there. So that would survive, and Starfleet would eventually realize that their ship blew up. So they'd come to investigate, and they would find the experimental module and get the data from that. And they'd be like, oh, Dr. Stubbs died doing this experiment.
But at the risk of like all the people on the Enterprise.
Yep.
Like, what a dick.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit.
I mean,
Yeah,
there
he-
are innocent children on the ship.
Yeah, I mean, he has a line that like truly makes no sense to me, and Paul actually has a couple of lines that I think he's trying to sound profound, but he just sounds like an absolute moron. He goes, ensure the safety, Captain, or are you really talking about playing it safe? No, he's like literally trying to save his crew. What the fuck are
Yeah.
you talking about, Paul? Like, what? I hate this man. And so he's like, I would rather die than leave. And I was like, bro, put him in the fucking, like, transporter. Let him float out with the egg. Like, and let everybody else leave.
Put him in jail.
I don't care. This man sucks. So Jordy eventually, like, figures out the, I guess, quote-unquote issue where it, like, something looks like thing has, like, deliberately been taken out or moved or something. And then that, like, triggers something in Wes's brain to be like, oh, fuck. So he then goes into 10 forward and he runs into Guinan, and he admits to her that he was doing a final project for his genetics class, or advanced genetics, and it was on nanotechnology, and he had these nanites, and 2 escaped. He fell asleep when we meet him at the beginning of the episode. He was asleep. That's when they escaped. And they are running amok in the ship. So he thinks that's what's causing the issue. So they need to figure out that stuff. Then he speaks with his mom, and he's like, you weren't here. And I wrote in my notes, well, that wasn't her fault. That was, I think it was Maurice Hurley's fault. Don't blame your mom for that. That's not fair.
Good burn. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate
so
that.
one thing I do like is that Dr. C doesn't chastise him or anything, even though it's absolutely his fault. She just, like, takes the information, explains it to the crew, so they're what they're, like, dealing with. She also would, like, tells him to have more fun, and this is just, like, a question in general. I always see this on TV shows. I don't know anybody that this has happened to, well, not that I know of, in real life, of a parent being like, hey, like, you work too hard, you study too hard, go have fun, go up, get into some trouble. What? Does this happen? Or is this just a specific movie, TV show?
I think it's a TV show trope.
Yeah.
Because it's always directed at, I can't believe they actually said this in the episode, but, like, the Wonderkind kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe that they were, like, self-aware enough to do that, and, like, it was almost tongue-in-cheek the way that they did it.
Here's the thing. If you're a kid and you're at the point where you're, like, overworking yourself and a perfectionist and all that kind of stuff, chances are your parents are not self-aware enough to be like, hey, loosen up.
Very true.
You know? You probably got something going on with your parents if you're overworking yourself like that.
Yeah. Also, likely if you're working your parents probably, like, want you to keep doing that.
Yeah.
'Cause
Or they're just grateful that you're, like, the well-behaved one or whatever.
Yeah.
The well-behaved one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then they come up with a plan. They realize that, like, because they've now evolved and, I guess, multiplied or something, the nanites, so they may or may not be intelligent life forms. So Picard is like, well, we can't kill them. So Data and Wes use, like, low gamma bursts to, like, slow them down or something. But then, like, Paul busts in and is like, yeah, I don't give a shit, and, like, shoots stuff, killing, like, nanites. I think I called it a nanobite earlier. Yeah. Nanites. And so Paul is, like, brought to the bridge, and he's like, oh, wait, okay, that's after. Okay. So, like, Picard and Riker are talking about something, and then they sell something weird, and they go out, and the bridge is, like, covered in smoke, but nobody has moved. Everybody's just totally content to be working through the smoke.
Yeah, like, they're not trying to get out.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's moved.
Also, again, no emergency equipment on the bridge. No emergency, like,
no
space
masks,
suits. Or,
no, like,
yeah.
Yeah. So then, like, Paul gets sent to his room for being a bad boy. And so Troy initially tries to, like, you know, reason with him earlier, but he just immediately, like, blows her off. Like, he dismisses her, and then second time she goes to see him because he's so singularly minded, and it's, like, unnerving and weird. She puts it nicer than I do. But he basically, like, once again dismisses her, and then kind of sounds like he asks her out, which is confusing. Because then he's like, I will show you New Manhattan on Beth Delta 1 and drink champagne. It's like, hard pass, Paul.
I think he was trying to be a romantic about, like, his own ideals. I don't think he was trying to hit on her.
Either way, he sucks, so.
Oh, yeah.
The whole
definitely.
exchange is weird and
so weird.
Pointless.
Yeah. His, like, weird, like, once again, he tries to, I think he thinks, I hate Paul because he thinks he's just such like a big shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like he thinks he's so much more like
He thinks he's deep.
yeah, because then he has another line where he goes, but sometimes when you reach beneath a man's self-portrait, as you so eloquently put it, deep down inside you find is nothing at all. Fuck you, Paul. Honestly, fuck you, Paul.
You find
That, like,
nothing at all.
Yeah.
Nothing at
Yeah,
all.
your head is nothing at all. Paul, you're sitting there lying on, like, lounging, recalling baseball statistics. You're, like, replaying baseball games you never saw in your head. Or maybe you watched later. Like, well, at least in the future, we know people still know sports statistics. Like, Paul, no one cares.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention Star Trek has a very weird relationship with baseball where it keeps bringing it up.
Well,
I'm sorry. Baseball is so fucking boring.
yeah.
Yes, offense to everybody listening who likes baseball.
I
kidding.
have learned to appreciate baseball. It's like it's one of those things where like the more you learn about it, it's like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand like how to watch it and like what's going on.
How to watch it.
Well, yeah,
I do
it's
not.
like it's all to do like listen, I totally get if no one wants to put in the effort. Like and that's not like shade or anything. I like genuinely mean that. Because it's like you have to learn about different pitches and the different strategies of like what to do at an at bat, and it's like it's a whole thing. It's
Like, yeah, I have a hard enough time with Wii baseball. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna start dealing with real baseball. I don't care the different. Like, I have gone to a few like Blue Jays games, and that was fun because like, you know, any live event like that is fun. Like I've been to a Toronto Argos game years ago. I don't know anything about football. I don't like football. I think I don't care about football. But the game was really fun to watch in person.
Oh, yeah.
Same with baseball, but I'll never watch it on TV. Whereas hockey, that's a game that just keeps going. I will watch hockey on TV any day.
oh yeah, it's got a good pace to it.
But like Americans love to romanticize baseball. Like, God, it's so fucking slow. And because then you have to like.
It's not even like it's struggling with popularity even in America.
Yes, it is. It was struggling in the 90s, too.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, especially in the 90s because of they had a big that's when the lockout happened. There was a big like basically a strike, right? And there was no baseball, and that kind of like fucked a lot of things up for baseball for a very long time. And then like this episode predates this, but then in the 90s there was the big controversy with like the steroids and stuff, and people like kind of lost confidence in it, I guess.
Fair.
Yeah. I love playoff baseball because the exact things that make regular baseball boring make playoff baseball really fun. It's just you have to sit with the tension so much and for so long. It just like it really keeps you engaged.
That's fair.
If you care.
Engage.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But like the only reason I enjoy going to the baseball games is because the atmosphere. I don't give a shit about the game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is fun. Like I went to a Blue Jays game once where they were playing whatever team has the word twins in it. I don't know what city that is.
Yeah.
But I remember it's twins
Minnesota.
and okay, yeah. So like
Wait, no.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's the Minnesota Twins, I think.
I mean, I'll go with that.
It's the Twin Cities.
I just remember that there's twins in the name of it, and like one of the guys just did so badly that his like average kept lowering throughout the game. And like people kept this guy like a few rows in front just kept yelling shit, and it was really funny. And he was like, "You can marry." He yelled out to one of like the Blue Jays players that like, "I really like you. You could be my stepdad. You should marry my mom." But
All right.
that I enjoy. The sport, I don't care. Okay, so Paul is busy like reciting some baseball shit, and then he gets struck by lightning.
Get struck by
Which is-
baseball.
Which is like the lightning, I guess, like it's like revenge by the nanites for him like killing shit. And so he then so then like Data is able to like establish contact with the nanites. He agrees to be like the conduit. They have a conversation. They explain, yeah, we're like exploring and shit, but we like now have grown too much for the ship, so we need to go somewhere else. Like, and it's just a misunderstanding on both parts. Nobody's trying to attack anybody. Paul apologizes, but fuck you, Paul. And they use Paul's influence, quote unquote, to have the nanites move to a different planet. And then they watch the, like, stellar matter explosion thing. But, like, I get that he's... So, like, Paul doesn't watch. He's, like, looking at the screens. Which is, like, probably, I suppose, he's, like, monitoring his experiment. But, like, you can see it on the, like, the front. And he's just got his back to it the whole time. And I'm like, you're missing it. But
Whatever, it's on
I guess
video.
it's...
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess he can get a replay from the AV department later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we end with Dr. C and Guinan having a chat and about Wes. And then Wes comes in with, like, this arm around this girl and goes to, like, a table of teenagers. And Dr. C's like, there we go. And then she's like, wait a minute. Who the fuck is this girl? What do we know about her? What's her deal?
Yeah.
It's like, wow,
Who dis,
way to,
bitch?
like, way to change tones in a second, Dr. C. Yeah, so we end with Wesley has friends.
Yep.
I'm so happy for him. No, I don't care about Wesley having friends.
You don't?
No, because, like, we're never going to see these people again, I assume,
yeah,
because this
that's
show's
true.
not great with continuity.
Yeah.
So Wesley, to me, seems perfectly well adjusted, and to, like, force friends on him just freaking feels weird.
Yeah.
Because it makes him seem like, oh, he's Mr. Popular all of a sudden, and, like, he's not. Wesley's,
Yeah.
like, a big nerd, and, like, that's fine. I enjoy Wesley as himself. Like, don't push him to become, like...
Yeah. The thing I do like about the Wesley stuff in this episode is you do get some hints that, like, you know, he's... How do I articulate this?
I like the Wesley stuff. I think it said a lot. Like, we learn like a lot, actually quite a bit about him. Like,
Yeah.
he's very much overworked, but that's, I suppose, mostly on his choice. But he's also, I think this, not necessarily, I don't want to say bring him down a notch, because he's not like an egomaniac. He doesn't need to be brought down, but, like, he does have, like, a history of, like, not doing wrong per se.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was, like, his big ideas did lead to something going wrong.
Yeah.
And he did try to, like, deal with it himself, but realized, like, he's not going to be able to deal with it himself, and he came clean. And, like, I thought this was a good Wesley episode.
Yeah.
It is a good Wesley episode. You're right.
Yeah, I figured out what I was going to say. What I like about the Wesley stuff in this episode is that you do get some hints that this stuff might not necessarily be his choice. Like, that he's just doing what's expected of him, pretty much. When he's having the discussion with his mom, he's like, listen, I've done everything everyone has ever asked of me and more. And to me, that kind of spells out it. It's like, I'm doing what's expected. Like, what more do you want from me? And, like, when he's talking to Guinan, she's like, you know, do you think you'll get a good grade on the project? And he's like, I always get an A.
He sounded depressed by that fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because he knows that the nanites are, like, that he fucked with them and that they're messing with the ship. But I think it also hints at that he is kind of, like, just not overwhelmed, but, like, he's just kind of, like, lost, you know? He's just, like, he's doing what's expected of him, and I don't know. I think, like, he's, like, kind of realizing that this isn't kind of what he wants to do, I don't think.
Ooh.
If you know
So
what I'm saying.
an interesting behind the scenes point about that. As I mentioned in our recap, this is a big change for the series. There's actually a new showrunner now. It's not Michael Piller yet. It's a guy named Michael Wagner, who is the head writer for, I think, a total of about 4 episodes before he leaves. Michael Piller wrote this episode, and he was actually, like, the episode was quite well liked within the staff, even though they didn't think it was entirely successful, because they felt like the episode didn't have, like, a strong ending, really, which I think I agree with.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense.
the Wesley stuff is something that Michael Pillar actually follows through towards the end of the series, and it's clear, I think, a good amount of Wesley episodes have his hand in them, and he likes the character a lot. Like, he flat out admits that, and was really happy with being able to do a Wesley episode right at the beginning of the season, because the whole point was to reintroduce Dr. Crusher to everyone, and he felt like the best way to do that was through a Wesley episode. And hey, you know what? I think it worked out pretty well. Because while the main story of the episode, I think, has its flaws, it's not bad. It's just kind of there. Like, I'd give the episode a B- if I were watching it, I guess. It's like, it's competent, but, I probably wouldn't go back to it, really. I think all of the, like, Wesley-centric scenes that are about him rather than about Dr. Stubbs, because, fuck, he's a piece of work. All the Wesley-centric scenes, I think, carry on really well, especially the one between him and Beverly in the in his little science lab there. That was a great scene.
Yes, I think so as well. And I think Wesley's character is starting to get... Maybe he's starting to think that, like, this might not actually be what he wants from his life. That's the way I kind of interpret it. Like,
Yeah, I can see that. It's almost like it's almost like he's not thinking about what he wants for his life. He's like, he's decided this is the trajectory that I'm taking.
yeah,
And
he's just doing
these are all
it.
the steps I have to do, and now I'm overwhelmed by the steps, but got to do the steps.
Yeah, he's just, like, kind of following the motions at this point.
Yeah.
I wonder what he would want to do, because with, like, all the science stuff, he's obviously good at it, and it seems like he likes it from, like, past episodes, and like, he aims high with stuff. So, like, wonder what he'd, like, want to do with it.
I'm not sure. Because I think, like, when he was younger, it's just, like, he's very smart and stuff, and his parents are in Starfleet, were in Starfleet. And he's just like, okay, so he kind of, like, saw the path that was laid out for him, and it's like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I think it's coming to a point now where he's realizing, like, oh, I've just been following this path because that's just kind of what was expected. And, like, now, I don't know. Like, he's 17, like, the character is 17, and it makes sense that, like, at this age, you'd kind of start, like, you change a lot from, like, when you're 12 to, like, 17.
Oh yeah, very much so.
It makes sense that, like, maybe he's just having a teenage crisis, being like, I don't know what I want. I've just been doing this, and I don't know if I want to do this, but what else am I gonna do? It's also maybe I'm being informed by knowing some of the stuff that Will Wheaton himself was going through, because his parents, like, forced him to be an actor. He didn't want to be an actor.
Yes.
So, like, that's... And his parents were basically, like, pieces of shit, essentially. So, like, when he says the line, it's like, listen, like, I've done everything everyone's asked of me. Like, that hits kind of different, like, when you know what he as a person was going through behind the scenes.
Aww.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. It was like, yeah, Will Wheaton, unfortunately, was, like, not having a great time during this point in his life.
No, not at all.
Especially, like, I think this goes for, like, every child actor, but especially, like, having to go through, like, puberty, like, in the public eye just sucks.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
definitely not want to be in a situation similar to him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like, how young he was when he became, like, on the map. It just... Oof.
And especially, I think, like, he must have been, like, really, really in the deep end of getting hate at this point, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Like, for the character of Wesley.
Yeah.
Anyway, that whole thing was just to say that, like, yeah, I interpreted the Wesley stuff as, like, maybe he's, like, just starting to think that, like, maybe this isn't what he wants.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it just, yeah. I mean, he was so, like, excited about doing becoming an ensign and all that, but like, yeah, I think the science stuff maybe is like where, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad that he's like very much overworked and overwhelmed, and this is a lot going for him, and I'm sure he like very much feels guilty, especially with like when Paul kills the nanites.
Yeah.
That like that sucks because it is like his fault it got out, and we know him to be a fairly responsible person, but yeah, man, Wesley needs a hug.
Yeah,
it's like,
seriously.
Okay, yeah, it is nice that like he is with like friends at the end. Like, I don't want him to like sit by himself in his room all the time.
Yeah.
But the way they just like they feels like they just threw it in to for the story, and I was like, that feels like Wes seems like the type of person that would maybe have like a couple of close friends and like not looking for a gang.
Yeah.
Can we
Yeah.
can we stop for a moment to talk about how important those outfits they were wearing were? Because like, oof.
Important?
Maggie, it is extremely important to know what fashion is going to be in the future, and if it's that, count me out.
I mean, you don't have to participate. You can be the Star Trek equivalent of like a vintage boy.
They don't seem to have any. I have never
Beyond
seen
Starfleet.
like a civilian in Star Trek in clothing that looks like in any way natural.
I know.
Well, okay, I will
Dr.
say
Stubbs
Paul's-
was pretty close.
Yeah.
Yes, okay,
He
good
did.
point.
He did wear a cowl neck, which was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his coat, his like jacket was like the collar was a bit different, but he looked pretty quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
I suppose as normal as you can get on this show, or I'll say today's modern.
Yeah.
They're whatever, I don't know how to describe it, just less flashy, less galactic, if you will.
Yeah.
Ugh, I just want Wes to be happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I was going to say earlier about, like, Wes feeling guilty and stuff. It's like it's obvious that, like, him and Dr. Stubbs have, like, some kind of, like, friendship or relationship or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he must feel, like, extremely guilty that he's, like, accidentally completely ruined this guy's chances of this project going through. Because they say at the beginning of the episode, like, that this neutron star won't do this explosion thing for like another like 200 years basically. So that's why this is so important to get done now, and that's why they have a time limit, because it's like it's gonna go off in a certain amount of time and it won't do it again for like 200 years. So yeah, that must be a bummer.
Yeah, it's like a whole extra amount of pressure. Oh, Wes.
Yeah. I really appreciated at the beginning that they didn't point out the container. Like, they didn't make it obvious that was going to be
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was right there, but like, yeah, we didn't know. I didn't even like have a second thought about it.
And I thought that went, like, I don't think it would have been wrong to, like, have, like, a close-up of it or something to, like, show its importance, because, like, that's a fairly typical, like, foreshadowing thing. But I feel like not doing that helped you, at least for me, it helped me stay engaged with the mystery, being like trying to figure out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
I think actually what I ended up liking about that approach is it really does mirror Wesley's exact attitude of it, of like, this shouldn't have been important, and therefore the audience had no reason to notice it either. It was just there.
But it also wasn't completely out of the blue, because it was there, but like not, they just didn't put importance.
Yeah, we did see it, but we just thought, oh, he's cleaning up. You know, everything's normal. And that's exactly the way that he thought about it, because he was tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I also really liked with this episode is how there's technically 3 plots happening, but they're all, I think, really well connected.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
So like the main thing with the experiment, Wesley stuff, and then Dr. P. I said Dr. P. Sorry, Dr. P. Bye.
Never to be mentioned again.
Yeah.
then Dr. C's stuff. I do like how everything was connected. It did, honestly, like when I started watching this episode, it felt different.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Yes,
feel
it
like
does,
the
it does.
tone, it just, everything just felt cohesive. I mean, it's not a perfect episode. Yeah, the
Yeah,
ending,
yeah.
as said earlier, is like kind of meh, but it did feel way more cohesive and thought through.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I don't know, it just also felt different in a good way.
This is very much the tone that you'll see in the rest of the series. Aside from the one moment at the end where Dr. Crusher is like, what do you know about her? Like, that was still very classic Star Trek
Yeah.
rather than how TNG would be known. TNG kind of tried to position itself, I'd say, as a little bit more sophisticated when it came to storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't always successful at it, obviously, but it didn't treat its audience stupidly, and it did a fairly good job, I think, probably because of the size of their writing team and the amount of people who would work on ironing things out, to make sure that most episodes felt like they were paced pretty well and
Yeah.
could keep viewers engaged. And even if the episode isn't great, I think that the majority of episodes going forward keep you engaged regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched. Like I was already excited for season 3, but like this episode setting the tone. I mean, we're off to a much better like new season tone than last season.
Yeah.
So I have like high hopes for
Yeah.
season 3.
Yeah, the sort of base quality goes up. And you're right, that there is, like, you definitely feel a distinct difference.
Yeah, immediately. There are a couple of other reasons that you'll feel a distinct difference. One of them is that we finally have our new uniforms.
Yeah.
So these are the wool uniforms that they will use for the rest of the series. Far more comfortable from the actors.
Yeah, did you notice the new outfits?
I think I only really noticed Picard's.
Yeah, his stood out the most. I think only the like main officers get them here, but by the end of the series, like the majority of characters have them.
Yeah. They're two-piece uniforms now instead of, like, the unitards.
Yeah, and they're not made of spandex
Oh.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just like everything, like everybody else was in so much movement other than Picard.
Yeah.
And we didn't see, like, barely saw Geordi, barely saw
Yeah.
Data, barely saw Worf, and even, like, I think we
Yeah.
saw Riker the least.
You'll notice
So-
it in the necks, which now have a bit of a collar because they didn't have that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
That, honestly, I didn't even realize it was a two-piece. I just noticed the collar on Picard's outfit.
That's
and
fair.
he was, like, making faces when the song started.
Yeah, the uniform change is often seen as like the show growing its beard in a way, in that like this is where things are good going forward. You look at the uniforms and you're like, is this a good episode? Wool uniforms? Yes, it is.
Yeah. Also, I'm assuming that on Netflix it's the remaster, right? It's the Blu-ray.
Yes, it is.
It felt like the saturation was really pumped up in this episode to me.
So there's a reason for that. The former cinematographer, a guy named Edward Brown, retired at the end of the second season. He was the one that was responsible for all of that like really stageified lighting in the first one that had like really weird like cast shadows everywhere and whatnot. The new cinematographer is a guy named Marvin Rush. And
Yeah.
Marvin Rush is he's the one that's responsible for I'd say it's not washed out. The more even lighting that
Yeah.
that TNG has going forward.
Although that conference scene had some very harsh shadows.
Oh yeah, he does use strong lighting on occasion, but it's when he's doing like ensemble group scenes, especially on the bridge.
Yeah.
You'll notice that the lighting in general is a lot more even.
Yeah, I was talking more about the color grading than the lighting.
Okay.
Yeah, because like Troy's lipstick is like just glowing. When I
Oh
was
my
watching
god,
the episode.
we need to talk about the lipstick in this episode.
The way that color grading was done for the remaster, they actually alternated between companies going back and forth from season to season. And one of the companies' works is considered to be the superior one, and I
Yeah.
think they end up taking over for good in season 4, but I'm not positive on that.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. It's just like it's clear that this was not I liked it. It's just clear this was not the intended color grading. Because
Yes.
the lipstick is like so bright.
The lipstick colors were so bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Troy's lipstick and Dr. C's lipstick. those were not the colors. That was not it.
Yeah.
Give them some neutrals. Why are they putting them in such these bright orangey colors?
I feel like that's just like an 80s thing.
I hate it.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. Although it was nice to see, although it didn't look good, it gave me a good feeling because because they're shooting on film, and I just love film, and like one of the distinct differences is that with digital, you cannot, I suppose you can, but it's very hard to get like a true bright red. Like red is really hard for digital to pull off, and on film, like reds just look beautiful. And that's just like my own film nerdiness.
Nerd.
Just because of the way the sensors work, like red is really hard to pull off for digital. Anyway.
I've got some side note stuff. Guinan said that she had she mentioned husbands and lots of children.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So here's my question. Does she mean husbands like past tense, like sequential, or like polyamorous?
Nobody knows.
So, like
Yeah, they
either
don't
way,
make it clear.
like is fine, but just like husbands plural and then lots of children.
Yeah, they don't tell you.
Okay, so they don't tell you, but I interpret it as like husbands sequentially because it's hinted that she's like so old, that she's lived for so long, that she must have had like multiple husbands at this point.
I suppose also it's like the late 80s, so I can't imagine they would just like, even though it's in the future in space, they're probably not so much into
Yeah, they probably
people
wouldn't
being
have
poly.
thought of that as an option.
Yeah.
It can be interpreted in both ways, though.
I do love the idea, though, of Guinan just having, like, a bunch of husbands at the same time.
Juggling hubbies.
Yeah. And I also, like, I'm so curious about her kids.
Yeah. I don't think you ever get to meet them, unfortunately.
You don't.
Oh.
Yeah.
Guinan is just very interesting. I want to learn more about Guinan.
Yeah. The thing is like, they keep her deal deliberately vague. So you never, like, quite get enough information about her.
True, but that's
kind of a
also
good move.
integrated into her character, which I really like.
Yes, yeah. She's supposed to be, like, mysterious and whatever. And it also keeps them open that they can do whatever plot bullshit they want with her powers.
Oh, that's true. I was happy to see her. She got 2 scenes this time.
Yeah, one of the I know you hate Dr. Stubbs, but I hate him less than the other, like, sort of pompous scientist people we've had on the show before. Because, like, he's
justified?
He's not justified. He's not mean to Dr. Crusher. Like, she fixes his back or whatever, and he's like, thank you. And he doesn't seem to be a dick about it. When Picard tells him that, like, he's confined to his quarters, he doesn't try to escape. He just does what he's told. Like, the only time he acts out is when he murders that whole colony of nanobots.
I mean...
Yeah. But, like, he's not justified, but I understand the desperation. Especially because he doesn't view them as, like, a life form. Which I can understand why someone wouldn't, even though I don't agree. And obviously the episode does not agree.
I mean, okay, yes, I hate him. I do agree with, like, the points you made. I still think he's a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because he was totally cool with the entire ship.
Dying.
Thousands of people just killed so he could do his experiment.
Yeah.
And then he could end up in, like, the history books and everybody else would just die and be forgotten about. Like,
Yeah.
That's a pretty fucking shitty thing.
The thing is like, he doesn't intentionally put the ship in harm's way as others would have.
Oh yeah, no. I'm
Yeah.
not saying like, oh, he's the worst person we've dealt with. At some point, I'm gonna have to sit down and do like a listicle or something of like the worst people we've dealt with.
It always seems like these big scientists in Star Trek are like terrible.
Just the egos are unreal. Like
Everyone
I don't think,
who's like a mega expert is just like an awful person, apparently.
yeah, like I don't think he's the worst. I just still fucking hate him.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
for
he's a
sure,
terrible-
for sure. It's just that I noticed a distinct difference in the way his version of shitty scientist was in comparison to the previous versions of shitty scientists we've had before. It like he still seemed to like he still seemed to work within the logic of an actual human person rather than just being like cartoonishly single-minded.
I do also believe his apology was genuine
Yeah.
at the end.
Although very misprioritized, I think.
Yeah.
Because that was another point I was going to bring up, which seems to be a theme so far throughout Star Trek, is like people thinking that like your project is like a valid excuse to be horrible. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I killed all of you because like I was trying to preserve my work or whatever. And then like, you know, Bruce was like like,
Oh, Bruce.
don't I deserve to not have my work subverted by blind ignorance, and you know, so on and so forth.
You know what it seems like to me? It seems like Star Trek thinks that scientists have these massive egos. Mm-hmm. Just the biggest fucking egos. And, like, if anybody questions their theories, then, like, shut that shit down. Mm-hmm. Hard and fast.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to like go through my notes and see who the freaking worst. Oh no, I don't have to think about it. You know who the worst is? Mm-hmm. Fucking Ira. Ira's
Yes,
the
definitely.
worst.
Oh yeah.
Ira Graves is the fucking worst, or one of the worst.
I forget
was a
which
short
one
thing.
he was.
He was the Tenomius to Lovely.
He took over Data's body because he
Oh,
wanted to
yes.
fuck his ward.
Yeah.
So I think what I heard a really good argument about this a while ago, and I think I kind of agreed with it. But in a lot of ways, this is partially because of when it was made. Star Trek is kind of anti-science while simultaneously pushing a pro-science attitude about things.
Yeah.
That
Because
makes
a
a lot of sense.
Yeah, a lot of its stories focus very much on like the follies of science and the like blind ignorance of science, and it's like, but guys, you're actually not giving scientists a good look here.
Yeah, it's like it's weird because I think they wanted to be pro science and show like the wonders of technology and science and all that kind of stuff. But simultaneously, I think they probably subconsciously have the same fears and apprehensions that were pretty rampant in that era.
Yeah, there was a lot of I mean, technology was changing so rapidly at the time. Mm-hmm. So like I understand where the thought process came from, and to be fair, I do really enjoy this era of science fiction, especially on television with stuff like Star Trek and the Outer Limits and the X-Files and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
But like it's not the most progressive viewpoint for today anymore.
Yeah,
When it comes to looking at this kind of technology.
definitely.
Yeah, it's very. They think it makes it seem like they think scientists will do anything to prove their theories, and that's not great.
Yeah, I think that was, I mean, that specific attitude of like scientists, like they don't care what they're doing as long as they can do it. Like that line from Jurassic Park, it's like you were so concentrated on whether you could that you didn't think whether or not you should.
Yeah.
I think that attitude was like very pervasive in the 80s.
Very true.
Yeah, and I think that probably, seeped into the minds of the Star Trek creators. Like, I think this is all like subconscious. And I don't think they meant it that way. Like, I don't think they meant for every single, like, scientist to have this, like, huge ego and, like, be a dick or whatever. But it just is an easy way to have conflict. It's like, it's an easy scenario to come up with. It's like some big shot comes onto the Enterprise and puts the ship in danger because they have too big an ego or whatever. And I think they kind of leaned on that idea a bunch of times, and it kind of created this unfortunate message that maybe they didn't intend. It's actually like counterintuitively, it's very typical for science fiction to explore the follies and bad side of science and technology, to be kind of like cautionary about it, even though it's science fiction.
Yes.
Supposedly like positive. Yeah, I think the ending to this episode is a little bit of a cop-out. I was like, I'm fine with it, because it's like, okay, let's wrap this up. And it wasn't like too... like everything ties up in a neat bow, and it's a little annoying. It's like, okay, you really didn't know how to like end this, did you?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's not as bad of a cop-out as previous episodes have been, so I was like kind of okay with it. And the rest of the episode was entertaining enough.
Yeah, it's cleaned up very neatly, but it's not bad per se.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's like, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. I love how Wesley's just like, yeah, these things have like whole gigabytes of memory. I mean, to be honest, I don't know what the status of current nanotechnology is at, so I don't know if they've made it to terabyte level yet, but data can be compact and pretty small these days.
Yeah, I think they underestimated just how quickly things would continue to change.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's one, what do you call it? There's a line that they do at some point in the series, I don't remember if we've passed it or not, about the amount of calculations that data can do per second, and it was something along the lines of like, oh yeah, I remember when computers could do that 15 years ago.
Yep. All right, then. I suppose we should move on to favorite moments and lines and things of that nature.
I guess I have a couple.
I have two.
I mean, first, obviously, really nice to see Dr. C again.
Mm-hmm.
Very happy. Welcome back, Dr. C. But this is such a stupid line. Honestly, a lot of the lines that I noted in this episode were Paul lines.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like it's when he first goes to see, he's being treated by Dr. C, and Wesley comes to see him, and then Paul goes, "Come along, Wesley, let's go see if Humpty Dumpty is still in one piece."
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
I was like, Paul, what the fuck?
Because it's an egg, get it?
Honestly, I didn't till this moment. Did not even occur to me the fact that it's an egg. I just thought he was talking because like everything had like shaken about. I thought he was just like making a joke. Okay, egg makes more sense. Now it makes me want to throw something.
I used to respect you, Dory.
It makes me angrier now. Oh, God. Okay, now I hate Paul more.
Good. Good, you should.
God, I fucking hate Paul.
Interestingly enough, there is nothing in the Humpty Dumpty poem that says he's an egg.
Oh, yeah. Guinan twice mentions Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was a little strange.
Yeah, I think she referred to him at one point. She's like, my friend Frankenstein. I was like, is she joking?
Of course she's
like
joking.
referring to the The book has then later, because so then like later when she has the exchange, Maggie, you sort of mentioned it earlier, when she says, "Oh, Wes, do you think you're going to get a good grade?" And then Wes goes, "I always get an A." And then Guinan goes, "And so did Dr. Frankenstein." I mean, I've never read Frankenstein. The closest I've ever gotten was the movie Young Frankenstein. Do they explicitly say that he got all A's?
No,
No.
like she's not being literal. It's because he's like, it's just a science project, and she's trying to say like, yeah,
I
just
get the
because
metaphorness of
think
it,
is
because
innocent.
like yeah.
Well, okay.
He
I think there's. Okay, I haven't read the book, but I have seen Brennan Braga's movie of it, which is like, as far as I know, closer to the book. And in that movie, there is a portion of it where he is in university, and I think he is like a good student.
They read his report card out loud in the book.
Yeah.
All right, Frankenstein.
It's awkward the way they do it in the episode, but I think it's just supposed to go along with the metaphor of like, yeah, like good good scientists can do awful shit.
Yeah, I think
mean,
so too.
yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I get the metaphor part of it, but the way that Guinan said it, it was like, made it sound like she knew Frankenstein. Yeah. Like, Dr. Frankenstein, I was like, this sounds like just the way she said these lines makes it sound like this was a person she knows versus just like a character in a book.
Yeah.
So that's why it kind of like threw it off. It was just her delivery of that. And I was like, does she, for a second, I'm like, does she know him? Why is this so like casual? Also, it's assuming that like we know that Wesley is not particularly we'll say cultured, because Picard called him out on not knowing like stuff back when they last season when they took the shuttle together for Picard to get his heart transplant. Mm-hmm. So like, would Wesley even know the Dr. Frankenstein reference? Because Wesley could have been like, oh, so like Guinan's got a friend named Dr. Frankenstein. Oh, yeah. It just like the way that she said it just made it really feel like she knew this person.
Yeah.
And I hope that Wes thinks that she knows him too.
Well, if they can imply that Sherlock Holmes is real, then I guess they can imply Frankenstein is real.
Very true.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, that was actually something else. This is not my favorite part, but like, but it just reminded me of there's a part where Paul talks to Wesley about baseball, and it's like a whole pastime. Oh, I wrote down this line. It's so stupid. Paul goes, "Once centuries ago, it was the beloved national pastime of the Americas." That, to be, first of all, sorry, that doesn't make sense because the Americas are two different continents.
Yeah.
And national isn't that country. Like, just fucking say the United States.
Yeah.
Or don't say national. Just say.
Yeah, because also it's not. it's really a thing in the U.S. and Canada and Japan and Korea, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah, it just, like, man, just sounded stupid.
Oh, wait, no, it is. It's a thing in, like, the Caribbean as well. And, like,
my issue of that line is more of saying that national pastime of two different continents. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But, go off, Paul. And then he goes, abandoned by a society that prized fast food and faster games, lost to impatience. And I just was like, I don't see the problem with that, Paul.
Yeah.
He explains to Wes that he, like, reimagines the game in his head. But before he does that, he's like, oh, yeah, I, like, talk about that shit. And Wesley's like, oh, so you, like, watch it in the holodeck? And Paul's like, no, I just imagine in my head. And I was like, don't tell Riker. because like, if you have the opportunity to, like, any kind of like, how do you, like, you have the opportunity to, like, do something in a holodeck, but you're just gonna, like, if you have access, but you're just gonna, like, lie there and think about it in your head. Like, Paul, I wish they put you in that thing with the egg. Like, he just sucks so much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not my favorite part, but it just reminded me. Yeah, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, what stood out was his real stupid line about the mosquito. I don't know if you guys recall, like, what do you do when you're bitten by a mosquito? You call an exterminator. No, you
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
don't. Who the fuck calls a mosquito or calls an exterminator for a mosquito?
Yeah, how
What the
many
hell?
mosquitoes is this guy getting inside? Like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my god, there's a black
Mosquitoes are
fly.
outside.
Blow up my house.
I mean,
For a second, I thought you meant there was a black fly in your house
yeah.
for a second.
Yeah, the way you said it sounded kind of real for a second.
Yeah.
Fair. Blow up my house.
Although it's the summer in Toronto, so there's a never-ending battle against fruit flies.
Yes, very true. But yeah, other than that, I think the moment where he had to apologize for genociding people
Yeah.
while genociding creatures was that was, it was humbling, but also, man, he did not take ownership of that very well.
No.
Where did he get the
Yeah.
I
gun
was the
from?
one responsible for the incident. You were the one responsible for a Holocaust, asshole. Fuck.
Where did he get the gun?
That's a great question,
I have no
actually.
idea.
That should be restricted.
He could have made
Yeah,
it himself, to be honest. He is like a scientist.
In
dude.
That's
between
true.
his baseball flashbacks.
Yeah, maybe. Honestly, my favorite moment in this episode is when Wesley and Dr. Crusher have their sort of argument thing in the lab. Just because I think that's like a really great like character moment for both of them.
Yes.
And
Yeah, very much so.
I like Gates McFadden's acting in that moment. I thought was really good. Like after he says like, "How would you know? You haven't even been here." They go to a shot of her face, and like you can tell like just how much it hurts and how much she's like having to swallow down her emotions. I just thought that was a really good moment, and like, and she says something that's like completely unexpected too, because like you'd expect in that moment for someone to like maybe go off or just be like, you know, oh, like that's unfair or like, you know, whatever. But it's clear she's thinking of it, and she's, you know, it hurt her, but I think she's trying to like understand his feelings about it, and like trying to do the right thing in this situation, and being like, even though I don't think it is totally fair what Wes said, it also isn't totally unfair. And I think she makes the right move, and she's like, I'm here right now, and I want to listen. Like, I want to help you. And I just thought that was like a really good moment for both of them.
Yeah. I enjoy their dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like she takes ownership of what he's frustrated for, and that's good.
Yeah. And it is like, it's a good demonstration of how Wesley is becoming more independent now, and how like her role as his mom has to change from what it was, to be like, she can't just like order him around and like have him do stuff. Like she has to actually like engage with him on not totally equal footing, but on more of an equal footing.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Like she missed a bunch of her son growing up, and that sucks, and he's frustrated by it, but he's not gonna hold it against her unless she tries to treat him exactly the same way. Like she has to acknowledge and respect the fact that she's been gone, and now she has to make an adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And all of this too, like this moment is mixed up in him like feeling guilty and realizing like the gravity of his mistake and stuff, and just really not wanting to confront that. And like, yeah, I think it's a real good moment when she's like, listen, like, I'll help you, I'll hear you, you know, what are you working on? And then Wes is finally like, they have that moment together, and he's like, Mom, I fucked up, you know. And I thought that was really touching as well.
Yeah.
Because he is still a kid. I mean, he's 17. Like, their dynamic definitely has to shift, but he is still a kid.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, so I guess we should move on to predictions now. So, Dory, the next episode is called The Ensigns of Command. And I do not know why it's called that.
Same.
So your tidbit is that Data has to be an ambassador and a go-between. And Picard has to deal with some really annoying negotiations.
Oh my god, that's a lot of vagueness.
Yeah.
Is Picard and Data, are they doing the same negotiations? Like it's the same thing?
They're related, but it's not directly the same.
Okay. Oh my god, this is so hard. Ah. Okay, I'm gonna go very left field.
All right.
Like very, very it's inspired by this episode. Okay. What if this is probably one of the more silly out there, but you know what? We're gonna roll with it. Okay. So maybe there's something going down on a planet where like the the like electronics, the tech is like going out of control, and they've sort of like, I guess, AI'd themselves, and they're like threatening to like, the technology is threatening to like take control, but it's like different pieces, but with the same, like connected to the same, let's call it the AI mind. And because Data can like, he's been a like, you know, a conduit for the nanites, that he can like communicate with technology, if you will. And so Picard like is trying to, so they're trying, maybe there's people on the planet that they're now trying to figure out a way to get the people off the planet. And so Data is trying to like, you know, reason and, you know, deal with the technology, while Picard is trying to deal with the people, trying to get them to leave. Because the tech will kill them. Yeah, so the computer's revenge. I don't know what they're revenging over, but yeah, AI goes crazy
Alrighty.
on the planet. Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Alrighty.
Hey, works for me. I'll watch it.
Yeah, sounds fun. All right. So if you want to see if Dory's right, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.